Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm the veteran, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I was gonna ask for your hand, Grant, and then I remembered you're far away from me physically, so I can't do that.
You guys know that the title of the show is
We have a really exciting show coming up today. I'm super excited for it. I think David's really excited for it, and Grant as well. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so this is how we're playing this. Okay.
Yeah, we have 3 veteran players of the game, veteran podcasters here, and we're gonna take a hand at talking about this card and.
Okay, well, anyways, if you guys are interested in finding out more about Card Talk before we get into today's card, we have, I'll put all the links over here, all the things that you need to see. We have a blog. Matt over at the blog keeps us up to date all the time with the cards that we're doing. We're trying to push through the core set, make sure we get all the cards in the core set. Up until this point, we've kind of done random cards from all over the place. Sometimes we pick some new releases. We've done a couple of spoilers. We've done all sorts of different cards, but we want to push through the core set now. It's time to do that. So Matt is keeping up with us over there. Linking everything, doing playthroughs, doing all that stuff. Micah, he's does Second Breakfast, and he is joining the team live on the weekend. Like every other weekend, he does a playthrough or several playthroughs and has some fun with that. Then we have email. You want to get a hold of us. We have cardtalk2018@gmail.com. And then the last thing we have is a little Patreon to help us keep the lights on here at the pod. We do this just out of the fun of the community, and it costs us a little bit of money, so it's nice to see people help support us. So you can join us at patreon.com/cardtalk2018. So, wow. Yeah, I know that's a lot.
We got a lot going on. It's great.
Yeah. So, Grant, what do we got?
Well, today we're doing the 2-cost Tactics Ally from the core set, the Veteran Axehand, if you couldn't get it from our little puns at the beginning of the show.
If they couldn't get it from the puns at the beginning of the show, I think there's bigger problems than what they're doing with the Veteran Axehand.
And so he's a 2-cost... 0 willpower, 2 attack, 1 defense, point, warrior, with the flavor text, I am glad to have you standing nigh with your stout legs and your hand axe from Legolas, the Two Towers.
Normally I wouldn't correct you, but I think that says your hard axe.
So it is.
Okay.
My bad, I'm looking at the me screen glare.
Yeah, well, it's just so funny because hard axe is kind of a, I don't know, it's borderline Card Talk After Dark sort of things. I'm glad you're joining us with your hard axe. Okay, anyways.
David, I'm very curious on your thoughts as veteran host.
Yeah. You want me to talk about the veteran accent?
I'd like for you to speak the veteran accent. Yes,
okay, that's good. Thank you for getting me back onto task there. I think the veteran Axehand is good for the core set. He fits into a dwarf deck. He doesn't fit into a lot of other decks. There's a lot, especially if you're playing with a large card pool, you're not going to put this in your Sylvan deck or your other sorts of swarmy decks, or he fits into a dwarf swarm deck. He doesn't do much. He's cheap. So, how many 2-cost dwarves are there? Not a lot. There's a lot of unique dwarves too, so this one's non-unique. So that's one of the reasons why he fits into the dwarf deck. All right. I mean, he's not in the Dwarves of Durin starter deck, but everybody has this guy, so there's no reason to not. If you're looking for a cheap ally, has 2 attack, which is great for two cost. Does it fit into all the decks as the card pool expands? No. It's got the warrior trait, so it can do the Imrahil thing. But I think we were talking about this with a different card. If you pull the veteran Axehand out with Imrahil, when you're trying to get a warrior, I think you'll be disappointed, and you'll be like, but it's still a body on the table. So I just think having a 2-cost, low-cost ally available to you is all right. There's not many of them. It's no Gondorian Spearman, that's for sure. But I think at the beginning of the card pool, this guy was all right, and as the card pool expanded, he just got kind of relegated to maybe a dwarf deck, and then it's good. Not because of anything other than the fact that he doesn't have any sort of ability. Other things can impact him. Lure of Moria, all the dwarfy things, but I don't know. Ted, what do you got?
Yeah, even though this guy is very players will use the word like vanilla because he's plain, he's got no ability. Just the fact that he has the dwarf trait is pretty strong. Right? Like that's right. He also happens to be warrior trait, which is not especially strong, but I think you mentioned the most relevant, which is he interacts with Prince Imrahil. But for this just being a plain no text ally, yeah, there are other allies that have the same cost and to attack in the same sphere that also have abilities. So unless you're really taking advantage of his dwarf or warrior trait, you can just get something else for that same cost. But sometimes you run out of those. Sometimes if you're trying to muster as many as you can, in a tactics deck, paying 2 for a 2-cost ally is good, especially when pairing it with the hero.
Can I stop you right there?
No, you cannot. I'm going to continue. When pairing
it's so funny because you just said when paying 2 for a 2-cost ally.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
good.
It is good.
I'm glad you're not paying 3 for a 2-cost ally.
3 for a 2-cost ally. 2 attack.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. This is the day where I get to play the jerk, where I get to interrupt everybody and talk about how they misspeak. Because, I speak perfectly all the time.
All the time.
I talk English goodly.
So the veteran Axehand, a 2-cost for 2 attack, I think is great, even with no ability. And a lot of times when I'm playing the hero, Hirgan is the Gondor hero. When he quests, you get to, after questing successfully, you can reduce a tactics ally by 1 cost. So then you're only paying 1 for this guy. And I tend to put a lot of 2-cost allies in with him. And so this guy typically makes the cut even with no ability, just because I want to pay 1. And I would still pay full price for this guy. He's got 2 hit points. So he'll soak up 1 archery. His 1 defense with 2 hit points. I've had him block 1 strength attacks before, like the crows, like the Kraben. I've had him do that, just to not risk the shadow card and extra damage, taking it undefended on a hero. But yeah, I think he's all right.
Grant, what's your veteran take on this Axehand?
Well, I agree with most of what you guys have said. What I will say is he can have benefits to when you have other dwarf attachments, likes of the Dwarad Axe, which is not restricted to a hero, but restricted to a dwarf character. so he can benefit from the +1 attack, as well as when he attacks, he deals a direct point of damage to the defending character. So he can do some fairly decent direct damage, even if he's not doing the killing blow. I would say that he fits fairly nicely into a Dwarf Swarm deck. Because that 2 attack may not be game changing, but it's still fairly decent, especially early on in the card pool. So Khazad works fairly nicely with the veteran Axehand.
Fairly nicely, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great mention, Grant. I think because I've actually done that. I've had him on the table and I've targeted him with Khazad because he can just like, oh great, he's gonna attack for 5 now because he just happened to be the attacker I had left standing because of just the way that the defense phase went.
Yeah, and Khazad costs 0, so even if you've used up all your tactics resources on, say, Swift Strike or Quick Strike, and you've just got Khazad and the veteran Axehand left, you could kill at least a small goblinoid with 2 defense and 2 hit points.
Let me ask this question. Let me dig a little deeper here. Last week we talked about Wandering Took, which was a 2 cost with 1/1/1 and 2 hit points. But it was in spirit. It was a hobbit. That was all it was. Didn't do anything. I mean, sorry. It has a threat thing. Ignore that it has the threat thing. Okay? Ignore that.
Ignoring its action.
And then this guy is 2 cost with 3 stats and 2 hit points. And so a lot of people don't like the Wandering Took for what it is. And a lot of people like this card for what it is. Like, why is there a disconnect there? Is it because, like, it has 2 attack and, like, hey, it's a dwarf and it has 2 attack? Or is it, like, why is it? And I'm going purely off of my feel about how people feel about the card in the community. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that are like, Wandering Took, and then there's a whole people that are like, Veteran Axehand, yay. Like, like, why is that? Ted, I'll let you tackle that question first.
Yeah, it's in tactics, players, I would say generally speaking, they don't really like diverse characters. Like if you generally ask, if you pick a hero that has a 2/2/2 stat line, like Barivore, for example, out of the core set, even though her ability is like phenomenal to target a player and draw 2 cards, you're like, her stat line's 2/2/2. Like that's always the criticism. And this character, like players just want a 3 stat thing. That's just what they seem to want. But this guy having a 2 stat in his attack for cost 2 is what you want. Like if you're playing tactics, you're gonna be attacking things, fighting the stronger enemies. You want the most, stats per dollar, and those are what you want to add up. You don't really want to waste if he has stats and willpower, because you're probably not going to be playing characters devoted to questing. And the Wandering Took is the same way. If the Wandering Took had 2 willpower, people would be like, he's the best ally in the core set. But it's not the case.
Grant, what do you think?
I'd agree with what Ted's just said concerning the Wandering Took. I think people would be more receptive to the Wandering Took if it had 2 willpower instead of having that +1 defense or the +1 attack. It would probably go, I see, better play, because in Spirit people will be more receptive to playing a 2 cost 2 willpower ally to a 2 cost 1 willpower ally. Especially when you've got allies like the West Road Traveller or the Escort from Edoras. who come in with a base 2 willpower for 2 cost.
Yeah, I mean, I could just imagine like designing this game, and there they are, this 2 blank pieces of paper, and one is like, well, 2 cost, 1/1/1, 2 hit points, nothing. This one is going to be bad, and then here's 2 cost, 0/2/1, 2 hit points, and this one's going to be, I don't want to say great, but good. Like they're equidistant from the same middle point, whatever it is. Like however good veteran Axehand is for the core set, I feel like people think that Wandering Took is just kind of, I don't know, so strange to me. But I don't know. I mean, do we go through and list all the dwarfy things that this thing can do, or do we just call it a day? Like,
Yeah, like
Dine, King Under the Mountain, that's not part of it, but like
Grant highlighted 2 really great ones, I think, the Dwerdolf Axe and Kazad, because those are both in Sphere and they came out in the second cycle. So very early on, he was using those cards, and they still apply today. And then you mentioned the other big one, right, which is just Leadership Dane. He boosts attack and willpower for dwarf characters on the table. So this guy's getting boosted to 3 attack if Dane is somewhere. And those are some of the most notable effects. Right. There are certainly some more that affect him, but those are the top ones. So just look for those. Like, that's the reason you choose to play him, is you're playing him usually for his keyword of being a dwarf.
Either
his
trait.
Or not, excuse me, not his keyword, it's his trait.
Right. Or maybe a warrior, but probably not much more.
Maybe more. Yeah, there's a couple of the cards that do trigger off that, like Last
Warrior
Stand,
Sword.
some other ones. Warrior Sword he can wield. So, like, he's got 2 good traits for being an inexpensive tactics
Raymond of War on him.
ally. Yeah, you could. Like, there's a few things that he can wield. So, even with the card pool being as big as it is, he is still a viable choice for a lot of decks, I would say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about his artwork? Grant, what do you think?
I like his artwork.
Is this your 5-year artwork for being in the game?
No, that's Grimbion, mate.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have apps like that, though.
No, I'm Grimbion who's had too much whiskey.
Okay, I got you.
But no, it's nice, it's crisp. He's running along the battlefield, what looks to be outside the mines of Moria, probably when they were retaking or trying to retake the mines, is what I'm picturing. Just after the dwarves left Erebor to retake the mines, maybe during one of Balin, one of Thror's men, after Smaug took Erebor. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, I mean, it took me like 3 years. I've talked about this before, way back, about going like art blind. You see a card so much that you don't really know what you're looking at anymore. And so it took me a while when I looked at this to not think that it was like some sort of spectral creature, because the way the cape is and the perspective of the card isn't perfectly straight. It's actually tilted on an angle so that like the ground is at like a 30-degree angle to the perspective of the card. So, and so to me, it always looks like this guy is almost like a wraith-looking thing. The feet, because one of the feet is up in the air, like the other one is kind of hidden behind the sphere symbol. So I always thought that this was like a ghosty looking veteran Axehand. I was like, this guy's dead. But the artwork is good. The hair looks strange. Like, it's like the hair is all like spiking out underneath the helmet, but like it's well drawn artwork. I don't know. It's not one of my favorite core set pieces. So Ted, what do you think of the art of this card?
Yeah, he's not. I think his thing is that he's not colorful. It's like you said, he looks kind of ghosty because there's like grays and things in the picture. He doesn't have any color to him. Mm-hmm. So that's what leaves me like, not so great, unfortunately.
Yeah, for that, I would say for the 30-degree tilt, I think that's because he's on the side of a mountain where the storm's blown. That's why it's so muted colours.
Maybe. I don't know.
That's what I'm picturing when they've chose this design.
Yeah. I'd like to see the art briefs. Do you think we could talk Caleb into releasing some of the art briefs for these and see what they look like? So, I don't know. Should we ring this guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we
Well,
should.
what?
Yes.
Yes? Oh, I thought you were going to say something more. Okay. Well, for anybody who doesn't know or may have forgotten, or maybe this is your first show, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we ring a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, or one of the best cards in the game, and a 10 is a card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made, or not a very good card in the game. So, let's see. I went first last time. Ted, my friend, you're up first.
Veteran Axehand, I give a 4, because even though he doesn't have an ability, the fact that he is a dwarf makes like that's an ability all by itself.
See, this is what I was saying about Wandering Took, right? Okay, Grant, my friend, what do you say?
I'm gonna
Give it like a 2 or something because it's a dwarf. Like,
I'm gonna be a bit more technical.
oh,
The amount of
do I need to get out a pad of paper and a pen here?
I mean, if you want to try
Do a
and
little calculus to
quantify,
figure out this thing.
if you want to try and quantify it, sure. But no, I think all the benefits for the dwarves, plus the fact that it's a 2-cost 2-attack ally, I'm going to give it a 5 rings.
5 rings. Well, I'm going to be not so technical, but I think that like a lot of the core set cards, this card kind of loses its luster. It's great chump. It's great, but I think when you build with, a warrior deck or a dwarf deck, you quickly find other cards that replace this guy. And so you may, like, if you're doing a Council of the Wise dwarf deck, which may be an interesting build, like this guy may end up in there. But there's a million dwarf decks that don't even need tactics. Probably do, but I don't know. That's just you can build a dwarf deck with Thorin and go for the 5 dwarf thing, and doesn't Thorin dying. I don't know. And so I don't even think that this is a staple in a dwarf deck. It's just another option. And I think that as the card pool got bigger and bigger and bigger, the options of not having this guy in the deck got better and better and better. So he may find his way into some of those decks, but not really. He's just a dwarf warrior. So I think that I'm going to give this guy, based on owning the whole card pool, this guy gets like a 7 in my book. He's still okay, 2 cost, 2 attack, but it's just not shiny as much as his dwarf brethren. So, anyways, there you have it. We talked about the veteran Axehand. So everybody join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.